For today's N64 game review, it is time to check in our green, lean, tall detective, Shaggy and Scooby Doo, and everyone else. But they don't really matter in Scooby Doo classic Creep Capers. That is incredibly difficult to say, and I'm gonna die, but I appreciate the alliteration. This game released at the tail end of N64's life in 2000, and even later for the British in 2001. There's also a game of the same title on the Game Boy Color, but its content is actually radically different, and we're definitely not covering that because I can only handle one Scooby Doo video game a decade. Sorry, multiverses. I chose classic Creep Capers over you. God, CCC is an adventure game where the player controls Shaggy, and just Shaggy. The Mystery Incorporated solve 4 different mysteries, 3 based on episodes of the cartoon, and 1 original story. The actual gameplay is walking around certain areas, gathering clues and trap pieces to catch the spooky monster. Every room has something that can hurt Shaggy's courage meter, which acts as a health meter. Whether it's a bat or a spider or a rat, and when the courage meter depletes, game over. Except not really, because this game actually has some real gracious checkpoints for an N64 game. I wish all N64 games were like that. I'm looking at you, Spider-Man 64, you piece of shit. Let's break down each episode. The first episode being the iconic Black Knight episode, What a Night for a Night. What a Night for a Night is arguably the most well-known Scooby-Doo episode because it was the very first episode. Black Knight was so recognizable that he showed up in one of the live-action movies. The original episode is a fun watch. I even rewatched it for this video. What a great 22 minutes. Too bad the game fucking sucks at adapting such an exciting episode. What a Night for a Night begins with Shaggy and Scooby extinguishing a car on fire and then leaving it there. They didn't want to call like a tow truck or anything, you're just gonna leave that? Shaggy, that's immoral. They meet up with the squad at a museum, which is haunted by the Black Knight. So, they explore it. And by they, I mean just Shaggy and Scooby. Because once again, they are the only ones who actually do anything because the player can't control anyone else. Let me be Velma, cowards! There are several exhibits in this museum. The Egyptian Wing, which has a bunch of nothing, and the Black Knight. Then there's the Prehistoric exhibit, which is a contender for the worst room in the game. The exhibit has a bunch of moving dinosaurs, which should be a more concerning supernatural event than some walking armor. These dinosaurs hurt Shaggy whenever he walks into them, and it is incredibly easy to get hit because the camera angles and the controls are this game's biggest downfall. The camera is in a fixed position, so the player moves between different angles, and the angles are not good. On top of that, the movement controls flip-flop every abrupt camera swap, so avoiding traps is beyond meddlesome. These controls suck, but specifically the Prehistoric exhibit in What a Night for a Night is the worst showcase for this game's controls. If I wasn't reviewing this game, I would have dropped it 5 minutes in because of how frustrating it is. But alas, here we are. At least there were some pretty dinosaurs. Then there's the American History Museum room. Well, maybe this is actually a horror game because there are racists everywhere. And finally, the Fine Arts exhibit. I think that's the name of it. I just know it as the room where the security guard dies. Like, Jesus Christ, Scoob, he's dead! After gathering clues, a necessary chase scene, and getting hit 1,000 times because the controls suck, the gang catches the Black Knight and reveals their identity. The worst mission of this game is over. I don't know. I don't think Black Knight is the scariest thing in that museum. I think it's Shaggy's face. Lord, that's horrifying. That's Snow Ghost, which is our second mission in Scooby Doo classic Creep Capers. I may have been pretty down on the Black Knight mission, but I gotta say, Snow Ghost is definitely the highlight of this game. It's still not great, but it's fun enough. In this cold, cryptic case, the gang hangs out at a ski lodge, but there's a snow ghost in the woods. So Shaggy and Scooby, and just Shaggy and Scooby and no one else, gather some clues around the lodge and in the spooky woods. Look at this breathtaking view. No modern game can live up to these graphics. Damn. After a sawmill thrill, a crowded cavern, and a pretty enjoyable ski minigame, Shaggy and Scooby gather all the clues and set up a trap to catch the abominable ghost. As previously mentioned, each level ends with Shaggy and Scooby in a chase scene with the monster. The player has to essentially guide the monster to the trap. And the Snow Ghost was the most enjoyable one because it tied the fun ski minigame in with the chase. If this whole game was up to snuff with this mission's quality, maybe it would score above a 5 out of 10. But it's not looking likely because it's Tiki time on Lava Lava Island. A Tiki Scare's no fair! The third episode of the trilogy, +1. This episode stars the famous witch doctor, and it takes place in the jungle. Listen to this ambiance. Yeah. I'm getting Donkey Kong vibes. Okay. I love me some jungle levels in my games. Huge Donkey Kong fan over here. But boy, this jungle is dense. And I don't mean there's a lot of trees. The puzzles here are dense. Not Castlevania 2 levels of dense, but like Zelda 1 levels of dense. I do not like Zelda 1 levels of dense. Shaggy and Scooby must make some stone heads face a certain direction, which was likely hinted at in this weird log minigame where the witch doctor chases you and is faster than you while you're on a log, and it's not fun. Do not make something that's chasing me faster than me. I feel like that's simple design. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. Then Shaggy and Scooby have to figure out the order of numbers on a statue to open a hidden cave. I literally have zero idea where to find the solution to this puzzle because I just looked it up. But this was a kid's game! I get it was the 90s, but this was a kid's game! Kids game! 90s kids were built different, I guess. I mean, excluding me, I just can't figure out some easy baby poo-poo puzzles, I guess. The cave that the statue led to has zero signage where to go, and this is where one of my biggest gripes really came into play. Scooby. I love this dog. I grew up with this dog. He's a good boy, but he gets in the way so much. Sometimes I'm running a certain direction and then he just jumps in front of me and stops me from walking, which can be a real bummer during a chase scene because then I die and I have to restart the chase scene, and I don't want to spend any more time walking around in this game. I mean, dogs do get in the way while walking in real life, so I guess Scooby is a pretty damn true-to-life dog. But come on. So with a dark cave that's wildly confusing, a dog that constantly interrupts my running, and having to lead the witch doctor to a very specific location in the cave makes me kind of loathe this mission. I know this isn't saying much, but I do think I like this more than the Black Knight mission, because there's no prehistoric room, and because it's in a jungle, and that's my Donkey Kong bias showing. Finally, the finale. What this whole game has been leading to. The case of the classic creeps. Sounds like a real classic creep caper story. Am I right? Hey, wait a minute. This is the original story in the game that ties in the 3 previous stories. The gang gets kidnapped and thrown into a literal castle dungeon. I'm serious, it's a castle. I didn't know I was reviewing Castlevania 64. Of course, Shaggy and Scooby escape because no one else is playable, and they're thrown into this absolutely miserable underground maze. The underground maze is so damn confusing. Again, there are zero signs showing where the player should go, and it's about twice as big as that cave on Lava Lava Island. I wandered aimlessly for nearly 30 minutes trying to get everything in this maze. The original Metroid had more signposting than this shit. That's how you know it's bad. Once the player gets out of the maze, it's pretty neat and challenging in the right ways. If this episode didn't have the garbage maze, I'd say it'd be as good as the Snow Ghost mission. But too bad. Even the music in this part is pretty decent. The music tracks in this game outside the iconic title screen have been pretty forgettable. Okay, Fred, what the fuck? And the game ends with Shaggy and Scooby doing one final chase. We went this entire game with only playing as Shaggy! Why can't I play as the other characters? Fred always says, why don't you guys go get more clues? Tell me, Fred and company, do you really trust Shaggy and Scooby to do all of the legwork of an investigation? I get they're essentially the main characters of the show, but I just want to play as someone else, please. Please. That's Scooby Doo Classic Creep Capers for the Nintendo 64. Overall, if this were the 90s, I would probably give this bad boy a solid 5 out of 10. The wonky 3D camera controls were very common in this area, so it's pretty forgivable. But reviewing it today, a generous 3 out of 10. Only because the Snow Ghost mission was pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, I had a good time. I do not recommend this game unless you're a die-hard Scooby-Doo fan who does a Scooby-Doo podcast. And if you do a Scooby-Doo podcast, maybe you should do an entire podcast episode on this game. That'd be really neat. While playing this game, I was thinking one thing. What breed of dog is Scooby-Doo anyways? Great Dane, huh? Okay. Wait, how long do they live? Oh gee, that's not very long. But wait a minute, Scooby-Doo was born in... Oh no. Oh no!